Next, from Springfield, we talked to Representative Robert Rita about the so-called ComEd bill, which he co-sponsored, that would subsidize 2 nuclear power plants in Illinois. This runs about 15 minutes.
Representative Bob Rita, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. We wanted to talk to you. You are the House sponsor of the bill, the ComEd bill as it is called, and to get your viewpoints on why this is needed. Why don't you give us the big overview?
Well, and this has been around for some time, and what we're doing in this Senate Bill 2814 is setting a policy for Illinois energy policy for the next several years, and it's a big comprehensive plan that takes in a number of parts dealing with energy. Major parts is the RPS, creating and sustaining the jobs, and becoming more energy efficiency as we move forward.
As I understand the issue, and I only will admit to vaguely understanding it, it is a complex bill. ComEd, which is owned by Exelon, but ComEd is saying these 2 plants, one in the Quad Cities and one in Clinton, that they are losing money and they will close these plants down without some subsidies. Is that basically?
Yes. Well, so here, let me back up. It started with 3 bills. One that was initiated by Exelon, one that was initiated by the green and the environmental community, and then one by ComEd. And that was the beginning. And I had the ComEd, Representative Walsh had the Exelon portion, and Representative Elaine Neckeritz had the clean, the environmental bill. And what we've done is worked together and put all 3 bills into one bill. So we have a big, major, complex bill dealing with the Exelon portion in terms of the 2 plants in Clinton and Quad Cities are set to close. Today is a deadline date for them to shut down due to the price of energy and generation that their business model.
So let me jump in there. So today's the deadline for them to send a letter out to say we're going to close it down like next summer.
Yes. So that would be the step into shutting and closing down the plant.
Can they send a letter that we're going to close it down, but then later withdraw the letter?
Yes, but in how the process, you have to go through a number of processes and notify, because putting energy on the grid, there has to be some notifications. This would be a step in notification. If, today we are successful and pass this, they could, would be able to backstep out of where they are, because that already started for the Clinton area. Clinton's doing it in Quad City, so it's already been in the process. But basically, there's that's one component. The other component of the bill is energy efficiency in using other forms of generation other than nuclear and coal, promoting solar and wind.
When you say promoting it, that sounds like a marketing plan. Are we giving them money? Are we giving them more subsidies?
Well, and there's basically there's a number of subsidies and initiatives but to start moving towards more energy efficiency and using cleaner energy as we move forward. And
what about those opposed would say Illinois is currently producing 140% of our needs in electricity, so this power generation just isn't needed. Go ahead and close down the plants. We don't need that power generation, so why subsidize something we don't need?
Well, it's about the jobs. It's about the number of jobs that Illinois would lose on that portion for the Exelon, and what they contribute to the Illinois economy, and the jobs and the money that from these employees, and what it would mean to the state of Illinois as a whole is the portion on the Exelon part. Now, and there's provisions and caps and checks and balances all reviewed by the ICC, that if these generation plants start to make money, if they're the price and they start becoming profitable, the subsidy goes down to they would lose the subsidy at a certain point. So it's all scaled in. There's checks and balances that it's not just here's a subsidy and you get it. If they start to turn around, and we don't know the future of energy, the price of future energy pricing.
Do you know, and I will say for the viewers that there keeps being new renditions of the bill, so it's hard to follow what are the latest, in fact, wording of the bill. Do we know how much money what kind of a subsidy are we talking about in dollar terms? Do you have a number on that?
Well, and there's on the different for all the different components there is, because there's money for solar, there's money for wind, there's money for Exelon, there's money for
how much for Exelon?
This keeps changing here because we're continuing to negotiate. We're at $220 million.
Is that one time or yearly?
No, and this is over the course of the program of 13 years, and then, but it's all tied into the energy efficiency. As we get more efficient, the more in using these renewable energies and clean energy. So it's all sort of intertwined. So that's what makes it so difficult when you move one part of this, it moves three other parts, and each part is all intertwined to make this all work. We brought a lot of people together, a lot of stakeholders that were all in different directions, and we're pretty much...
Let me ask you, so the wind and solar producers, and that's a subsidized industry. They're not market competitive, so those producers are subsidized. They're already subsidized. Are they getting an additional subsidy?
What they have a fund where money's gone into the fund, and right now that money is not accessible. So it'll free up that money along with the new monies that are going into these to expand solar, wind, and other forms of generation. So just like with the Exelon, so there's components. They're all components that would have a rebates and funding tied to them.
When we say saving the jobs, do you know off the top of your head how many jobs would be lost if they closed down?
My understanding is about 4,200 between the two plants, and that it's been estimated with the bill, with the creation of jobs, because the new with the solar and the wind would be over 8,000 jobs. But with the two plants, I was told around 4,200.
Now, so one of as we were just talking, and as the critics have said, this keeps changing so dramatically. I think we're on version 8 over the last 4 days.
Here, let me clarify that.
And the question is this: I mean, what's the bum's rush? Why can't we give more time on something as complex as this is? In the hearing this morning, some of the ComEd people at the table answering questions of Senator Harman were having some difficulty explaining their own bill.
Well, the difficulty comes in terms of the complexity and how this all works. The bill has been, as introduced as it has been being reduced. So this is not new components when we're talking about Amendment 5, 6, 7, and 8. These are, a number of them are technical in terms of drafting errors, putting dates on when things would be enacted, when different programs would end. So it's not dramatically changing when we're talking about these additional amendments. It's fixing and/or fixing some of the drafting errors, along with tweaking some of the
so it's not
language.
radical changes.
There's not radical changes in these, and that's why they will go to the floor versus the committee. But the main of the bill has been heard in committee on a couple of occasions, and since a few weeks ago, it's been dramatically reduced in the amount of money it is and in what's being proposed. I mean, we went from demand rates to that being pulled out, to having coal possibly part of it, and we brought all the stakeholders and heard their concerns, and that's how we've crafted this to where we're at today.
Has anyone in the negotiations, if we have 140% in the state of Illinois, in other words, we're generating 40% more than we need presently. Now, hopefully, our economy improves and our electrical consumption would improve, right, or go up. But if we're having 140%, and if Exelon is selling that excess capacity on the spot market and making money, has anyone ever said, give us some of that profit back if we're giving you the subsidy, so we can have some kind of if we're going to participate in the downside, let's participate as a state in the upside?
Well, and when you talk in them terms of, this is all being regulated on a federal level, and so we have the jobs. The jobs are in Illinois. So we're exporting some of that electricity out, but the 4,200 jobs are in Illinois. And their business model would shut that down and say, okay, well, we're going to shut these plants down, which they've said they will because of them not because of the plants actually losing money, we would lose the jobs. So it's the jobs portion on the Exelon piece is what is important to Illinois.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if we're going to give them money, couldn't we participate in the profit? To say, we'll guarantee you this subsidy, but if you make a profit, why don't we participate?
There are checks and balances. As they start to make profit, and there is, the subsidy goes down. Okay. So there is a check and balance tied to that. And the important part is putting that funding in for them is to keep the jobs. So as they would, you're saying, would all of a sudden big, huge profits would come, there's provisions.
And then the subsidy
would drop to a certain point to nothing if they were making that much money. Okay. And that's to protect the consumers.
If we don't pass it today, is there an ability to push it off and then maybe whether early in January to come back and with that extra time to go ahead and still pass it?
Right now, and things, you have a bill like this, things have been changing. But right now, the goal is to pass this before we leave here today, and that's the timeline. And what I've been working on, what we've all been working on, is to have this done today.
And we should say that this is the last day of the session. We got, maybe 3 hours left or so. By the time we air this, we'll know whether or not it passed. But Representative Bob Rita, we know you're busy. Thank you for joining us. We'll have to follow the events as they flow through the legislature.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. All right.
Bob.
Yep.